Welcome to another episode of BPL Pod. I want you to imagine, just for a second, that you are an HR manager.
Okay, I'm imagining it.
Right. So you're staring at a resume that has just slid across your desk.
Uh-huh.
And looking at the qualifications, it makes absolutely no logical sense.
I mean, honestly, the best resumes usually don't. But paint the picture for us here.
So on this particular resume, the applicant lists their primary occupation as an indie folk and alt country singer.
Okay, straightforward enough.
Right, but then you scan down to the previous experience and you see they were signed to a fiercely underground Atlanta rap label.
Wait, what?
Yeah. And then under side projects, they list designing competitive yo-yos and shooting a major corporate ad campaign for Nike.
That is wild.
And finally, under personal interests, they note that they write heartfelt love songs about a professional baseball player.
It reads like a chaotic game of Mad Libs. I mean, if you try to map those distinct elements, alt country, underground rap, competitive yo-yos, Nike, baseball, there is just zero obvious connective tissue there.
None at all.
Historically, the music industry would look at a profile like that and just panic because it defies all categorization.
Which is exactly why we are pulling this specific thread today on this deep dive. Today, we are exploring the life and career of Faye Webster.
A fascinating artist.
Truly. She's an Atlanta-born singer-songwriter who blends indie pop, alt country, soft rock, and R&B into, a sonic landscape that is entirely her own. Okay, let's unpack this because her story matters to anyone trying to carve out a creative life today.
Oh, absolutely.
She is the ultimate example of a modern artist who built a massive, critically acclaimed career not by following the traditional streamlined music industry playbook, but by stubbornly embracing every single one of her own disjointed, eclectic interests.
Yeah, and we are going to trace a trajectory today that takes Webster from a 16-year-old kid self-releasing her own music all the way to a major label festival headliner in the year 2025.
It's quite a journey.
It really is. And the core mechanism of her success is just fascinating. We constantly hear that to succeed, you need to, pick a lane and stay in it.
Right, find your niche.
Exactly. But as we'll see, Webster's refusal to be pigeonholed actually became her most powerful asset.
So to understand how she weaponized that versatility, we really need to look at her foundation. She was born in Atlanta in June of 1997 into a deeply musical family.
Yeah, music was just always around her.
Right. And by the time she was 14, she's already writing her own songs. She's attending Henry W. Grady High School. She's a teenager, and she's just, hauling herself onto stages at local open mic nights.
Which requires an immense amount of vulnerability.
Totally.
But it also exposes a young artist to the brutal reality of live performance. I mean, you play a set, people clap, and then they leave. The connection is entirely ephemeral.
And that ephemeral nature is actually where her dad steps in with a piece of advice that I find incredibly pragmatic.
Oh yeah, I love this part.
Right. He would watch her perform at these open mics, and he basically gave her the creative equivalent of a tech startup's minimum viable product strategy.
The MVP.
Yes. He told her she needed to record her music so people could physically take it home with them.
It shifts the entire mindset.
It really does.
Yeah.
You are no longer just expressing yourself on a stage. You are manufacturing an artifact.
It forces a transition from being like a hobbyist to being a distributor. And what is remarkable is the sheer execution at such a young age.
She didn't wait around.
No, she didn't wait for permission or a talent scout. That advice pushed her to self-release her debut album, Run and Tell, in October 2013.
When she was barely 16 years old.
Just 16. It hardwires a DIY ethos into her brain. She learns early on that she controls the means of production.
But, and this is interesting, she doesn't strictly stay in that DIY lane. After high school, she actually tries to plug into the traditional corporate music machine.
She did, yeah.
She enrolls at Belmont University in Nashville to study songwriting. Now, on paper, it is the logical next step. Belmont is a prestigious pipeline for country and folk songwriters.
Very prestigious.
But she hates it. She drops out quickly, feeling like she was just wasting time and money. So I have to wonder, what is the disconnect there? Why does a talented teenage songwriter reject the premier songwriting institution?
Well, Belmont is an incredible school, but its curriculum is fundamentally designed to teach the industry of songwriting.
The industry.
In Nashville, songwriting is often a highly structured, collaborative 9-to-5 job. You are writing hits for other people in dedicated writing rooms.
So it's very treated like a corporate job.
Exactly. Webster, however, writes from an intensely personal, almost insular perspective. The machinery of Nashville is built to polish rough edges and create this universal appeal.
Which is kind of the opposite of her whole vibe.
Exactly. For an artist whose entire identity is built on her idiosyncratic rough edges, that structured environment just feels suffocating.
So she rejects the polish. She leaves Nashville, moves back home to Atlanta, and makes this high-stakes deal with her parents.
A one-year deal.
Yes, she gets exactly 1 year living at home to make it as a successful musician. If she fails, she goes back to college.
Talk about pressure.
Right. And I want to challenge the logic of this with you because usually when you put a strict 365-day ticking clock on someone, panic sets in.
Usually, yeah.
And panic usually makes people play it safe, try to copy what's already popular, and beg for industry approval. How did this ultimatum not completely stifle her creativity?
What's fascinating here is how that specific deadline actually liberated her from industry expectations.
Liberated her. How so?
Well, when you only have 1 year, you do not have the luxury of spending 3 years networking in corporate lobbies or slowly climbing a traditional ladder.
That's true, you're out of pay.
You have to utilize the resources immediately available in your backyard. And for Webster, that backyard was the local Atlanta scene. And importantly, Atlanta's music ecosystem is radically distinct from Nashville's. It is fiercely independent, highly collaborative, and heavily driven by hip-hop and rap.
Which brings us to the first massive contradiction on that resume we discussed earlier.
Oh, the rap label.
Yes. In 2017, shortly after dropping out, she signs to Awful Records. Now, let me play devil's advocate here because Awful Records is a prominent underground Atlanta rap label.
Very prominent.
She is an alt-country, soft rock artist playing a pedal steel guitar. From a sonic perspective, how does a folk artist integrate into a rap ecosystem? It feels like mixing oil and water.
I mean, if you view it purely through the lens of genre, it makes absolutely no sense.
Right.
But independent labels, especially DIY collectives like Awful Records, they don't operate on genre. They operate on ethos.
Ethos.
Yeah. Awful Records was essentially an incubator for outcasts and creatives who were building their own infrastructure. They needed artists who were self-starters.
And she already had that MVP mindset from when she was 16.
Exactly. Furthermore, being submerged in that rap ecosystem profoundly altered her sonic production.
Really? Like how?
Well, she didn't start rapping, obviously, but she absorbed the rhythmic pacing, the use of empty space in the mix, and the R&B vocal phrasing.
Yeah.
And she wove all of that into her pedal steel country sound.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that cross-pollination is really what birthed her unique genre.
And she wasn't just observing that culture from the sidelines either. She was actively providing value to the collective through a completely different medium.
Photography.
Yes. While she was making music, she was also embedded in the hip-hop scene as a photographer. She was shooting intimate portraits of local artists, including her high school classmate Lil Yachty and Shelly FKA Dram.
This is just a masterclass in lateral networking.
It really is.
She isn't walking up to these artists and handing them a demo tape, which is what literally everyone else is doing. She is offering a service.
Right, she's bringing something to the table.
She is documenting the culture from the inside, capturing their image for publications like Billboard, Rolling Stone, and Spotify. It builds immense trust and cultural cachet.
And it pays off financially and professionally in a way that actually has nothing to do with her music.
Right.
Because of her photography portfolio and her deep roots in the Atlanta scene, she lands a major corporate gig in 2017. Nike was rebooting its iconic Air Max 97 shoe, and their marketing strategy was to hire creatives who were literally born in 1997.
Which she was.
Which she was. She fits the demographic, but more importantly, she has the artistic chops. So they hire her to shoot the ad campaign.
Consider the momentum she is generating here.
It's staggering.
In a single year, 2017, she signs to a rap label, shoots portraits of major hip-hop artists, directs a Nike campaign, releases her second album, self-titled Faye Webster, and embarks on a 12-city tour with Sean Rell.
That is just an unbelievable level of output.
She is utilizing every single facet of her identity to beat that one-year ultimatum. Her side hustles are actively funding and validating her main hustle.
So she survives the ultimatum, obviously, and then she levels up. In late 2018, she signs with Secretly Canadian.
A great label.
Yeah, a heavyweight independent label with the global infrastructure to take her out of the local Atlanta scene and finally put her on the international stage.
This is the graduation moment.
Yeah.
She now has the distribution power to match her creative output.
And she uses that power to release her 2019 album, Atlanta Millionaires Club. And I just have to pause on this title because it encapsulates her entire approach to branding.
It really does.
You hear Atlanta Millionaires Club and you assume it's a flex. You assume it's a reference to hip-hop moguls or, like, tech billionaires.
Right, it's just something flash.
But it is literally the name of a group of her dad's grad school friends who run around competing against each other in donut-eating contests and 5K races.
It subverts expectation completely.
Totally.
She takes a phrase that implies exclusivity and wealth and attaches it to something deeply personal, a bit absurd and wildly unpretentious. It's a refusal to manufacture a cool, detached persona.
And the broader culture clearly resonates with that authenticity. By December 2020, she receives one of the most coveted mainstream endorsements of the modern era.
Oh, the playlist.
The playlist. Former President Barack Obama includes her single Better Distractions on his famous end-of-year playlist.
The Obama playlist is a really unique cultural barometer.
Yeah.
It signals that an artist has crossed over from being an indie sphere darling to being part of the broader national conversation.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. When an indie artist gets that level of mainstream validation, the usual industry reflex is to smooth them out.
Definitely.
You polish the image, you aim for radio-friendly pop, and you distance yourself from anything too weird or niche. But Webster does the exact opposite.
She doubles down.
She does. As she releases her critically acclaimed 2021 album, I Know I'm Funny, Haha, and goes on tour with massive acts like Haim, she actively leans into her hyper-specific, borderline obsessive personal interest. Case in point, her profound devotion to the Atlanta Braves baseball team.
It is a level of fandom that completely bridges the gap between her personal life and her professional art.
Yeah.
She doesn't just wear a vintage jersey for an aesthetic photo shoot. She is a dedicated fan who used to leave high school early just to attend daytime games.
She even had a massive crush on the Braves' star outfielder, Ronald Acuna Jr.,
who happens to be the exact same age as her.
Right. And instead of playing it cool, she writes a very vulnerable, yearning song about him called A Dream with a Baseball Player.
So good.
It is so incredibly specific, and the universe rewards that specificity because she eventually gets invited to stand on the field at a Braves game and sing, "Take Me Out to the Ball Game."
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we can see exactly why this resonates so deeply with modern audiences.
Why do you think that is?
Well, in an era dominated by algorithm perfection and focus group pop stars, audiences are starved for unironic sincerity.
That makes a lot of sense.
When you listen to a song about a very real, very awkward crush on a baseball player, or when you see her unabashedly geeking out over her other hobbies like poking on or competitive yo-yos, it shatters the artificial barrier between the artist and the listener.
The yo-yos are honestly my favorite detail. She doesn't just casually throwing a yo-yo around in her bedroom. She attended the World Yo-Yo Contest.
Seriously.
She designed and sold her own custom-branded yo-yo. Let me ask you this. How does an artist convince a record label that selling a custom yo-yo is a good marketing strategy?
Because the label understands that the modern creator economy is built on parasocial relationships.
Right.
Fans don't just want to consume the music, They want to understand the human being making it. Webster's success isn't despite the baseball crushes and the yo-yos. It is directly fueled by them.
People love the weirdness.
Exactly. Her fans trust her because she doesn't hide her weirdness. That authenticity creates a much stickier, more loyal fan base than a manufactured pop persona ever could.
We crave that radical honesty. But, being an artist with a massive loyal platform also thrusts you into the complexities of the broader world. And at this point in the deep dive, I want to pivot slightly.
Sorry.
We are going to look at some of Webster's recent political activism. And I just want to clearly state to you, the listener, we are not taking a stance on these geopolitical issues.
No, not at all.
Right. Nor are we endorsing any specific viewpoint. We are simply examining the actions documented in our sources to understand how a modern artist utilizes a global platform.
And the sources show a clear escalation in how she uses her influence. In January 2024, she performed at the Artists for Aid benefit concert in Newark.
Right.
She utilized her live performance to raise funds for humanitarian aid in both the Gaza Strip and Sudan.
But it is her action in September of 2025 that I find structurally fascinating. Webster joined an organized boycott called No Music for Genocide. As part of this protest against the Gaza genocide, she took the explicit step to geo-block her music. That means she actively restricted her entire catalog from being streamed or accessed on platforms within Israel.
This raises an important question about the mechanics of modern protest.
How so?
Well, in the past, if a musician wanted to boycott a country, they simply refused to schedule tour dates there. But in the streaming era, art is borderless by default. Spotify and Apple Music deliver your product globally the second you hit publish.
Right, the digital infrastructure has completely removed geography from the equation. So by geo-blocking her music, she is essentially rebuilding a digital border.
Precisely.
She is weaponizing the very infrastructure of the streaming platforms to execute an economic and cultural embargo. It goes far beyond just signing a petition. It's a direct manipulation of her intellectual property.
Exactly. It demonstrates profound awareness of the leverage modern artists hold. They are not just managing a brand, they are managing a digital supply chain. By withdrawing her catalog, she exercises sovereign control over where and how her art is consumed, blending her moral stances with hard structural action.
It is a heavy responsibility managing a global footprint like that, and her footprint continues to expand.
It really does.
Just to bring us up to the present moment, in March of 2024, she released her 5th studio album, Underdressed at the Symphony. She took that album on a massive international tour, commanding stages at premier festivals like Coachella, Primavera Sound, and Bonnaroo.
And the ultimate culmination of this entire journey happens in 2025, when she finally signs to Columbia Records, a major historic label.
Wow.
She went from self-releasing an acoustic album as a teenager to operating at the absolute pinnacle of the music industry.
So what does this all mean? When we look back at that baffling, chaotic resume we discussed at the beginning of the deep dive, the profound takeaway is that the old rules of specialization are dead.
Absolutely dead.
You are constantly told to streamline your identity to make yourself easily digestible for the market. But Faye Webster proved that you don't have to choose between being a hip-hop photographer, a competitive yo-yo designer, an avid baseball fan, or a folk singer.
Right, you can be all of it.
By refusing to sand down her contradictions, she created a lane that only she could occupy.
She leaned into her complexity, and in doing so, she became entirely irreplaceable. No one else has her specific combination of influences, which means no one else can replicate her sound or her connection with her audience.
Which leaves us with a final thought to chew on. We spend so much time worrying that algorithms are forcing culture to become generic and repetitive.
Sure, yeah.
But the reality of an algorithm is that it constantly searches for niche engagement. Could it be that the hyper-fragmented digital era we live in actually rewards the uncategorizable?
That is a great point.
Maybe the very systems we fear are homogenizing art are secretly creating the perfect conditions for the weird, cross-genre oddballs to inherit the earth. Something to think about. Thanks for listening to People O Pod. Keep tuning in for more stories worth knowing.